If there is one thing that Elon Musk has no filter. When he thinks, he speaks. And recently, the target of his criticism was one of the most expensive and controversial military projects in history, Lockheed Martin's F-35 fighter. Musk has not saved words. He called the F-35 a multi-dialing failure, filled with software problems, radar defects, and questionable results in operational tests, a speech that, in a few minutes, has generated a real and immediate financial impact. Shortly after Musk's statements, Lockheed Martin's shares plummeted more than 3% on the stock exchange. And it may seem little, but when we talk about an American defense industry giant, a drop of 3% represents billions of dollars evaporating hours. This reveals the size of the influence that Elon Musk has today, not only in the technology world, but also in the politics and the military sector. Musk is no longer just the Tesla or SpaceX eccentric billionaire. He already has direct connections with the high political echelon, including with Trump government figures. But to understand why the F-35 has become such an easy target for criticism, we need to look at the problematic history of this fighter. The F-35 project was born of an almost impossible ambition, creating a fighter that was at the same time capable of meeting the demands of the U.S. Air Force, Navy, and Marines of the United States. It was the promise of a combat plane that was good for everything. Result? A Frankenstein of military engineering. When trying to meet the three forces, the project was excessively complex. Each wanted a different version with distinct capabilities: vertical landing for Marines, short Navy takeoff, and stealth capacity for the Air Force. This has generated a plane that is extremely expensive, difficult to maintain, and with limited performance in many ways. For you to get an idea, the F-35 has been late for the initial schedule. The original budget? It has been burst in almost $200 billion. What was supposed to be the great revolution of combat aviation became a logistical and financial nightmare. But justice is done. The F-35 is not a complete failure on the battlefield. Despite all the flaws and delays, the fighter has shown considerable performance in some scenarios. For example, in missions by Israel, the F-35 has shown an impressive rate of victory from 20-1 against enemy fighters, according to data released by the Israeli armed forces themselves. Of course, these numbers always generate doubts. After all, who is promoting is precisely the countries that have invested billions in the program. But anyway, the fact is that the F-35 is flying, is being used in real combat, and being able to fulfill some of the missions for which it has been designed. Only here comes the central criticism of Elon Musk. For him, the big question is not whether the F-35 is able to win combat today. The provocation goes far beyond. Musk asks if it makes sense in the 21st century, continuing to put pilots inside combat fighters. According to Musk, the future has no pilot. He argues that keeping humans within military aircraft is becoming obsolete and dangerous. The reason? The proliferation of advanced anti-aircraft defenses and, especially, the rise of autonomous drones. In his view, instead of investing trillions in manned fighters, military powers should focus on developing drone swarms, controlled by artificial intelligence. And to reinforce this argument, Musk cites a very current example: the conflict in Ukraine. There, what we are seeing daily are small commercial drones, adapted improvised, destroying tanks, trucks, and even aerial defenses with a very low cost. The example of Ukraine became practically an open-air laboratory of the modern war. And Musk makes a point of using this as a mirror to show how much the concepts of war are changing. While the United States and other NATO countries still dump billions in projects such as the F-35, the Ukrainians, with tiny budgets, are using $500 drones to overthrow millions. These commercial drones, equipped with makeshift explosives and high-resolution cameras, are causing a true logistical and tactical nightmare for Russian troops. They fly low, are difficult to detect by conventional radar systems, and can attack with surgical accuracy. Now imagine what a swarm of thousands of drones, operating with advanced artificial intelligence and real-time communication, could you do against an entire fleet of F-35 fighters? This is exactly the future that Elon Musk is predicting and defending. It goes beyond and even mocks the F-35 stealth technology. According to Musk, with advances in artificial intelligence, state-of-the-art sensors and high-frequency radars, thinking that a fighter today can be really invisible is almost a joke. He even says that stealth technology is something laughable in the face of the evolution of modern detection systems. And that leads us to another question that Musk raises: the cost-benefit. While a single F-35 can cost about $100 million per unit, not to mention maintenance and operation costs, a drone swarm can be produced by a minimum fraction of this value. In a war where quantity and flexibility make all the difference, who do you think will have advantage? But Musk is not just criticizing for criticizing. He points to concrete paths for the future of the air war. One of them is precisely the development of autonomous drone swarming, capable of making decisions in real time without the need for human operators controlling each movement. And the most interesting, this movement has begun. Startups like Anduril Industries, Shield AI, and even companies like Palantir Technologies are already investing heavily in artificial intelligence-based war technologies. Anduril, for example, has developed Lattice, a system that allows drones to cooperate with each other autonomously, sharing target information and reconfiguring the mission in real time. Shield AI, in turn, is developing a system called HiveMind, which allows drones to operate in GPS-denied environments, making decisions alone, depending on communication with a remote base. And Palantir, known for its work with data analysis, is creating platforms that integrate large-scale artificial intelligence to coordinate complex military operations. That is, Musk's criticism of the F-35 is not only technological but also cultural. He is pointing to a shock of generations within the defense sector. On the one hand, we have the great corporations of the traditional war industry, such as Lockheed Martin, which work with decades development cycles, astronomical budgets, and a mindset that still revolves around heavy hardware. On the other hand, these new companies appear with startup DNA, working with rapid development cycles, using software as the main differential and betting on artificial intelligence as a central weapon. Musk makes it clear. In his view, those who remain attached to the past, investing in manned fighters, questionable invisibility, and infinite budgets, will lose ugly in the wars of the future. And he is not alone in this analysis. More and more military and defense experts begin to recognize that the traditional air war model has their days numbered. Not coincidentally, Pentagon has already begun to fund autonomous air combat programs, such as the Project Collaborative Combat Aircraft, which seeks to exactly create unmanned fighters to act next door, or even in the current manned aircraft. And it is precisely at this point that Elon Musk's speech gains even more weight, because what he is saying is not a distant science fiction forecast. The change has already begun. The United States Department of Defense itself knows this. So much so that in recent years, investments in programs such as Skyborg and Loyal Wingman, which aim to develop intelligent combat drones to operate alongside manned aircraft or even completely replace them. Meanwhile, the F-35 continues to accumulate controversy. Recently, another round of operational tests exposed new critical problems in fighter mission software. Pilots complain about sensor failures, difficulties in fusion of data, and inconsistencies in the interface of weapons systems. In some situations, the crashes force the plane to return to the base even before completing the mission. In addition, F-35 maintenance costs remain a nightmare. Pentagon's own studies show that the cost per time of F-35 flight is around $36,000. This means that every hour in the air, the US government burns the equivalent of the price of a new popular car. And not to mention the spare parts, the training of pilots, and the soil infrastructure needed to keep this fleet operating. Musk summarizes all this directly. We are spending trillions on a platform that is already born obsolete. While F-35 still tries to solve their software bugs, technology companies are already developing fully artificial intelligence-based air combat systems with continuous learning capacity and real-time adaptability. An example that Musk likes to quote is advances in combat simulations. In 2020, DARPA, the US Department of Defense Advanced Project Agency, held a competition between an experienced human pilot and a developed AI for air fighting. The result? AI won every round, with the right to maneuvers that a human pilot could never execute by physical limitations. This demonstration was a watershed within the Pentagon. It is clear that in the very near future, manned fighters will begin to lose space for autonomous air vehicles, controlled by algorithms that can calculate attacks, dodging and firing in fractions of a second, without fatigue, without hesitation, and without fear. Another point that Musk always reinforces is development time. While the F-35 took almost 20 years to get out of paper and still face delays, technology companies can create, test, and implement new drone systems in a matter of months. This gives an agility of response that great military programs simply cannot keep up with. And Musk's message is clear. Either the United States and the rest of the world quickly adapts to this new reality, or will be behind opponents who are already exploring the use of autonomous drones, electronic war, and artificial intelligence. To close with a direct summary, Musk has classified the F-35 fighter as a multi-dollar failure, with radar problems, software, and operational tests. He said the F-35 is far from ready for modern combat. And the future, he said, is one: smart, cheap, fast, and lethal drones. A revolution that has started, and that we like or not, will transform forever the way the wars are locked.